What do a lot of people say about different symbols in dreams? Well, how can we really dig into those and actually try to apply them and find some sort of truth to them? Because the only way to bring clarity to something is to shine light on it. It's not all 100% nonsense. There's some validity to what some people have associated with these symbols throughout time. These things are highly subjective, as we're trying to categorize them and add some objectivity to them. Symbolism in dreams is a highly subjective, nuanced concept. The experience of flying in a dream. This is a common theme. Most of the time, if you look it up on Google, you could try it right now, tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe if you look it up on Google, it's going to tell you that dream, hopefully Google will give you the caveat that dreams are highly subjective and morphing and fluid. It'll tell you that flying usually represents freedom, or the desire for freedom, or liberation, or the desire to escape from the constraints in life, or something like that, or escape the common bindings of your culture. There's definitely something to that, and it could represent that, but I wouldn't want someone to have that dream and then look up that definition in one of their dream dictionaries and then waste all of their time trying to find some way to apply that to their life when it's really not applicable. So it's important to recognize that if you have a dream about flying, depending on what resonates with you and what feels right, it could have a whole bunch of different meanings. You may be tapping into some sort of other life you could imagine, or some sort of imaginatory desire to experience flying. That's also possible. You may also be going through something in your life that's highly liberating, and you may be in the process of it. It depends on how you feel, and that's what a lot of times when you look up in these dream dictionaries, they don't even consider. If you were flying, but you also may have felt like you were flying away from something, and that could completely change the meaning of that theme in the dream. And you may have felt like you were flying towards something, and depending on what you're flying away from and what you're flying towards, or if you feel like there is no reference point of anything behind or in front or before or after, and you're just flying freely, that could have its own meaning. So when it comes to flying in dreams, and things like that, important to have more context. Don't just look it up on Google or in your dream dictionary and take the first explanation as the only explanation. Because then there's also the common dream theme of being chased. And being chased can obviously represent a lot of different things. The fear of something that you're trying to avoid. Also, like, you may be in a flying dream where you're being chased. And obviously that wouldn't represent like liberation. That could represent all of your fears. That might be encompassing all of your fears, and it might be a way for you to emotionally process these fears without the judgment that you'll experience from people in your everyday waking life, so that your mind is subconsciously better equipped for these things. It also just represent like procrastination or stress from certain responsibilities, or I would say like it could be something that some sort of desire or future outcome that you're drawn to, but you feel like you might never be able to get to. We should realize, even though we might feel fear in some of these dreams, and I'm not going to get into all that. I know what some of you might be thinking, because I've mentioned it before, but that fear that you feel from being chased, it's important to recognize that you only fear things that don't exist. And a lot of times parents, their kid might wake up from a nightmare, and someone might tell their kid that it's not real, it was just a dream, go back to bed. And then that same parent might catch themselves laying in bed being afraid of something that's also not real. That's not just a dream, but it might just be their imagination. We only fear things that don't exist. By the time they exist, it's not a fear anymore, it's a reality. So we can only fear things that don't exist. So they say that like people fear the unknown. I never really like that saying, because there are sometimes the unknown makes people curious. Some people step willingly into the unknown without any fear. So We don't always fear the unknown, but every time we fear something, it is something that's unknown. You can only fear things that may happen. You know, even if you think they're very likely to happen, you're not fearing something that actually exists. Jesse, you said, I found this explanation for flying that I gravitate towards. Because we're trying to rationalize the feeling of weightless bodily movement, since we don't have physical bodies, also we all share the experience of movement without effort from being in a womb. Interesting. I like that. That makes sense. But as far as like movement without effort from being in the womb, I think the experience of floating would be distinctly different than the experience of flying. But still, a lot of times people might use those words interchangeably to describe their dream. Interesting. When someone's having the feeling of free floating in a dream, are they tapping into the experience that they had when they were in the womb? Some deep-seated memory there, while their brain was still developing in the womb, may have been captured. Very interesting. One of the common themes in dreams that people ask questions about is their teeth falling out. And I literally have a dream dictionary still that says when your teeth fall out, it means you're going to get money in the future. Obviously, that's just one of those nonsense explanations, because it may have happened to some people. They may have came across some money after they had a dream about their teeth falling out, but you know, correlation's not always causation. It could represent like insecurities or the feeling of powerlessness, being exposed without control, you know, and that's also like ties into the dream of having your pants down in a public place, you know, or being naked in public. A lot of times, a lot of the explanations you see for that is like insecurities. It definitely, by and large, I feel like they probably do most of the time represent some type of insecurity. Jesse, you said if your teeth are falling out, you need to brush more. Oh well, tooth. Yeah, it's possible that maybe you're just not taking good care of your teeth, and that's why you had that dream. That's very possible too. Maybe it's just your subconscious telling you to go to the dentist. It's been a while since you had a checkup. I just don't want people to fall for the classic, like, oh, it means you're going to get rich or something, because you very well might get rich, but the dream of your teeth falling out has nothing to do with that, I think. And yeah, they could represent some type of insecurity. You know, could represent a lot of things, you know, and being naked in public, you know, could represent vulnerability and all of that. The thing is, like, a lot of people, I've seen this in people who have reported their dreams, that a lot of times they have dreams of being naked in public, and they claim that they have no fear. Tooth fairy vibes. And they claim to have no insecurities about being naked. So don't be fooled by the symbolism. You know, it's not necessarily directly what it's saying. You know, it's just a way for that theme to manifest itself in your mind. A lot of it is context. Just because you have a dream about being naked doesn't mean that you have an insecurity with your naked body. You know, could represent an insecurity in almost any other with your naked body. You know, could represent an insecurity in almost any other aspect, and you would have to look at the overall theme and characters and symbols in your dream to distinctly identify what that might be. I think, at least that's how I feel. What about falling? Because what about just the dream of falling? So we've talked about that a lot. A lot of times if you look it up on Google, it'll tell you that it just represents helplessness, you know, or you're losing some major aspect of yourself. You say, for me, I'd have to say falling means surrender. I get that. I get that. Yeah. Because you're not flying. You're not taking control of flying. I like that. Yeah. Falling asleep, falling in love, falling ill. All things you can't really force or control. Yeah, that's why I said lack of control is one of the things that you'll see probably on Google or in the dream dictionary. Falling often represents lack of control. Surrender, yeah. I like the surrender aspect of it, because surrender is different than just lack of control. Surrender is almost acceptance of that lack of control. So again, I think that's why it's important to focus on how you feel. In every one of these dream themes, we have to remember to think about how we feel. You know, not just the circumstances, but the emotions too. If you feel surrender in that moment, then yes. But if you feel overwhelming fear, then maybe it might be something else. But then at the same time, maybe it could be your dream trying to tell you that you need to surrender more. And it might be trying to teach you to learn how to surrender to things that you don't have control over, things that you can't force. That's interesting, Jesse. Thank you for that. Being lost, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, that was one of the main themes of my dreams for a long time. You said you're running in a lot of dreams. Yeah. How do you feel when you're running? Do you feel like you're running from something? Or are you just running? Or do you feel like you're just Forrest Gumping that, you know, just going? I wonder, because I've had dreams about just running, and a lot of times if you were to approach someone with that, they would attribute it to the dream of being chased, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. You know, maybe you're trying to run towards something, or maybe you're just running. You said trying to escape some threat. Yeah, and that ties in with the dream of being chased. And then how do you feel? You know, or obviously some threat, so you feel some sense of fear, or some, you know, natural survival instinct, and trying to get away from someplace, find a safe space. Yeah, that can obviously represent the avoidance of confronting something, trying to escape some things that are stressing you out in life, and or something from your past that you're trying not to acknowledge. But it could also just be tapping into that primordial genetic code that we as humans have as a survival instinct, because so many of our predecessors historically have been chased by things and had to try to find a safe space to escape whatever they're running from. So I mean, maybe just the overall experience of that. And then, you know, that's where you could get into one of the theories of dreams, that we're acting out these things so that we can better react to them when we experience them in waking life. And because humans existed undomesticated for so long, that there may have been enough experiences just like that to tune it into our genetic code, or you could say to program it into the celestial wireless, whether you want to look at it internally or externally. You said a dream therapist mentioned how I'm trying to hop fences and asked me what a fence means to me: an obstacle, a cage, a boundary I need to get over. I love that you said that. Thank you for saying that, because the whole point of what I'm doing here, perfect point, that if you have a dream about running, or you have a dream about being chased, what other context is there? What else is going on in that dream? If you're trying to jump over things like fences and stuff, yes, that can add a whole nother meaning to it. And again, how you feel in that dream could add another meaning to it. And I've had dreams of just running. A few different dreams about just running, actually. I'm not going to sit here and go through all my dreams, because that's not the point of this here. But some of them are really interesting. But what I got from that was I felt like I was really tapping into my roots of my history, and maybe I felt like personally it might have been experiences from past lives, or potential lives, you know, if you don't want to look at it as a timeline thing, potential other forms of my energy, you know, my reflected energy, you know, because I do have a Native American blood in me significantly. So, you know, a lot of times I felt like I was one of those messengers just traveling across the plains. So other times I was running in a less natural environment. The obstacles, the boundaries you're trying to get over, that's really interesting. Yeah, if you're leaping over fences and walls, then that could add a whole nother aspect to it that someone would want to consider if they're trying to interpret that type of dream. Thank you for that, Jesse. Again, great input. I didn't even think about that. I've never had that experience. I've had the dream of being lost and running in the same dream. He said, I like to imagine dreams are where we can encode our epigenetic memory through thought, emotion, etc. Yeah, Honestly, man, a lot of the modern scientists that study onerology, that's like one of the reoccurring theories that I hear a lot of them say. So you know that you're definitely not far off with that, and I definitely think there's something to that. And I think the more people consider it from that perspective, I think that we can learn the most. Not looking at them as some strictly a psychological phenomenon, and not looking at it as simply some sort of esoteric experience, but also considering the physical genetics of it. If you look up death in dreams and what that could mean, a lot of people, especially a lot of these Facebook gurus and stuff, they'll probably tell you that it represents ending, transformation, the need to let go of something. But I think we all understand why that could be wrong in so many ways. First of all, what type of death? Who died? In what way did they die? How did you feel when they died? You know, what was the context of it? Did you witness the death, or are you just seeing the aftermath of the death? You know, there's so many different things to consider when it comes to death in dreams. Don't just take the first explanation that you see. And if you guys can think of any common dream themes out there that you think have obvious explanations or obviously wrong explanations, let me know. Being in a haunted house, they say that can symbolize unresolved issues, feelings of guilt, or fear of the unknown. And that is not whatever resonated with me. A lot of times I was in this lost house, but it was more a dream about being, or I was in this haunted house, or abandoned house, I should say. You said I'm a dream all about all these symbols you brought up. Naked, afraid, in a haunted house with the tooth fairy, right? Right though? Man, crazy. And that's okay, and that's off like that's what I'm saying. A lot of my dreams, one of my common themes was big haunted houses, or big abandoned houses, or big mysterious houses. And often, usually sometimes I was being chased in them. Sometimes I had that feeling of being lost. Sometimes I was running in them and lost and being chased all at the same time. You know, that's where it's important to recognize that there's layers to these, you know, and it's like what is the most prominent aspect of the dream, and then what are some of the less significant aspects. And maybe I think it's important to try to layer these things based on an emotional measurement. And that's one of the things that I loved about Carl Jung. You know, Carl Jung didn't claim to be the founder or the discoverer of anything. He definitely emphasized the point a lot that he was just kind of helping people remember what they already knew. He believed that these things were revealing themselves to us, not that he was the one that had to reveal them to us. And he believed if people would take the right perspective, they would understand these things. Love the shirt too. Thank you, man. You know, I have 2 of these shirts, and I found them at Salvation Army. And they both same size, fit me, and I bought both of them. They were probably like less than $3 each. So, and I've had them for a while now. Yeah, I love this too. Honestly, I didn't design this. I kind of wish I did. I do have some slightly similar ones, but you know, I'm gonna be I have it on some jackets and some hoodies, but I will be making T-shirts with this design on it. No, I'll incorporate that. But yeah, thank you. I love these shirts too. So yeah, what was I talking about? Actually, I might call it a night here soon. And if you know, my main point here was to just show that you can never go by a one-dimensional perspective or explanation about anything that you have in your dream, and there's layers to it. The only way to really understand them is to recognize the multi-dimensional aspects of them. But I'm going to call it a night. If anyone has any questions about any of this, hit me up in the comments or in the messenger, wherever. I'm open to it. I'd love to discuss some of this more. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Elaine. And for whoever tunes in the future, bless your beautiful soul. I will catch everyone next week. Peace and love.